What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and Integrity doing a Master Duel Vampire deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this for you guys because this deck is an extremely fun deck to be able to play in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and I've included some really spicy tech cards in this build for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name scratched in a single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Vampire Scarlet Scourge. This card is a definite 2 of in the deck, and I really love this card because it has the ability, if it's normal or special summon, you can pay 1,000 light points and then target a vampire monster in your graveyard and special summon it back to your side of the field, which is a great effect just to get another vampire on the field. It also has the ability at the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monsters by battle, then you can special summon them back from the graveyard to your side of the field, which is a really good effect to help you step into some awesome XZ plays and even link summon, which is really cool about this card. We then play a single copy of Vampire Grace. Vampire Grace is great as a 1-of in the deck just to help you extend your plays because she can bring herself back from the graveyard, which is a really cool effect about this card. We then play a single copy of Vampire Fraulein. Fraulein is definitely a 1-of in the deck because this can boost up your zombie monsters by up to 3,000 attack points, which is a crazy effect depending on the amount of life points that you pay when one of your zombie monsters battles, which is just such a cool effect. And when a monster declares an attack, you can actually special summon this card from your hand in defense position, which is a really good effect. I love that about this card, and it's just a definite 1-of in the deck, especially to help you get over big monsters. We then play a single copy of Vampire Shadow. Shadow Vampire is definitely a 1-of in the deck because this card just helps extend your plays, because when this card is normal summon, you can special summon one dark or vampire monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of this card, but if you do, only that monster can attack for the rest of the turn, which is not that big of a deal because it's just to be able to extend your plays. And this card also is really good to use during your first turn because you're not going to declare attack anyways, just to be able to just get a really powerful monster on the board. We then play a single copy of Vampire Voivode. Voivode is a really awesome boss monster for the deck just to help you go into some insane plays. And this card has a great ability. If it's normal summon, you can actually target up to 2 monsters in your opponent's graveyard and special summon those monsters to your field in defense position, but their effects are negated, which is a great ability to get 2 monsters on your side of the field so you can actually make your copy of the zombie vampire, which is a really awesome card to be able to make in the deck. But this card is super easy to put on your side of the field because this deck swarms like crazy, so it's really easy to be able to actually tribute summon out your copy of Voivode and just normal summon it out to your side of the field. This card is a really good boss monster, but you only need a single copy of it. We then play 3 copies of Vampire Ghost. Vampire Ghost is one of the craziest cards in the entire deck because if this card is normal summon, you can send one other vampire card from your hand or face up from your field to the graveyard and then add a level 4 or higher vampire monster from your deck to your hand. And if you do, send a level 2 or lower vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is a really good effect because it does search any of our high level vampire monsters that we want directly from our deck to our hand, while also sending a copy of, say, Vampire Retainer or Familiar from our deck to the graveyard, which is a really good effect. This card is also great as a 3 in the deck because it does give us an additional normal summon, because during the main phase, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then pay 500 light points to be able to immediately, this effect resolves, normal summon a vampire monster to your side of the field, which is a great effect to help you swarm the board. We then play 3 copies of Vampire Retainer. Vampire Retainer is an awesome 3-of in the deck that's actually going to help you search out your vampire spells or traps from your deck to your hand, because if this card is special summon, you can pay 500 life points to be able to add a vampire spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can send a vampire card from your hand or face from field to the graveyard to special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field, helping you swarm the board while also searching really powerful cards from your deck. We then play 3 copies of Vampire Familiar. Vampire Familiar has the exact same effect as your copy of Retainer, but this card searches monsters, making it definitely a 3-of the deck, so we can get to any of our vampire monsters that we might need directly from our deck to our hand. We then play 3 copies of one of the most powerful zombie cards ever created, Unizombie. Unizombie is a walking foolish burial and can level modulate itself, which is insane. By sending a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, you increase the card's level level by 1, which is really good. And you can also discard a zombie monster from your hand to the graveyard to increase this card's level by 1, making it a really powerful card in the deck to help you synchro summon or even go in for some really awesome XZ plays, making this card a definite 3 of in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Shiranui Solitaire. Solitaire is really good as a 2 of in the deck. You can actually tribute this card to be able to summon out Unizombie from your deck, which is a great ability. And this card is just so good in the deck to help us get additional copies of Unizombie onto our side of the field, because Unizombie is extremely important to help us get our copies of either Familiar or Retainer directly to the graveyard so we can bring them back, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Mizuki. You really only need a single copy of Mizuki in this build. This deck is already extremely tight, so I did cut Mizuki down to 1 for this particular build. But this card is great because you can banish it from your graveyard to be able to bring back a zombie monster to your side of the field, which is a really good effect. We then play a single copy of Ballardrot. Doom King Ballardrot is just an insane boss monster overall, and this card is just really good because if there is a field spell on the field, you can actually special summon this card back from your graveyard to your side of the field during your standby phase, and once per chain and once per turn per effect, it can actually negate the effect of a zombie monster or banish 1 monster from the field of the graveyard whenever a monster effect is activated, which is a really good effect to be able to use with this card, because when you have your copy of Zombie World on your side of the field, every monster on the field is going to become a zombie, and every monster in the graveyard is going to become a zombie, and the majority of really popular hand traps, like copies of Ash Blossom and stuff like that, are actually zombie monsters as well, making this card be able to go off extremely easily to have it as a walking negate. And it's a really good boss monster because it comes back every single turn. We then play a single copy of Banshee. Banshee is really good as a 1 of the deck. You can banish this card to be able to get to your copy of Zombie World extremely easily. 1 copy of Glow Bloom. This card is one of my favorite zombie cards ever created because it has the ability, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from the graveyard to add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to your hand. But if you control Zombie World and it's in the field, you can actually special summon that monster from the deck instead, which is a really good effect just to instantly get one of our vampires on our side of the field, or even get to Doom King Ballardrot. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just an insane hand trap just to stop your opponent from touching the deck, and it's a really awesome card in this particular build. And then we play 3 copies of Max C. Since this is a Master Duel deck profile, Max C is pretty much mandatory, and this card is insane in Master Duel. It basically lets you draw a card every time your opponent draws, or every time your opponent special summons a monster, which is really, really good, and helps us dig into the deck so we can get more of our plays rolling. This card is really good as a 3 of in this particular build, and just about in any deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. So, that's going to do it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really good to be able to get the exact zombie we need in the graveyard when we need it. We then play a single copy of Vampire's Domain. Vampire's Domain is really awesome because this card gives you additional normal summons of your vampire monsters by paying 500 life points, which is a really cool effect for this card to have. And each time your vampire monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you gain the same amount of life points that they lost, giving you the vampire-like effect, which is really cool. We then play 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is insane in this deck just to be able to stop your opponent from hand trapping you while you're going in for all of your plays. We then play 2 copies of Vampire's Desire. Vampire's Desire is a really cool card in this deck because it has a lot of great uses, with the ability to let you target a face-up monster you control, send a vampire monster from your deck to the graveyard with a different level from that monster, and if you do, the targeted monster becomes a level of the sent monster to the graveyard until the end of the turn, or target a vampire monster in your graveyard, send a monster that you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster, which is a pretty good effect to be able to use with this card, just to instantly bring back one of your vampires to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Zombie World. You really only need 2 copies in this particular build. It's so easy to get to. There's so many ways to be able to get your copy of Banshee to the graveyard. You can banish it to be able to get this card, and it's just a really awesome card in this particular build. I usually do play 3 copies of it. With Unizombie so easy to get to in this deck, you can basically just send your copy of Banshee to the graveyard, banish it, and then put your copy of Zombie World on the field, which is why I've cut this card down to 2 in this build. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymer. Polymerization. Super Polymerization is insane as a 3 on the deck because it helps you break boards, and this card is really insane in this particular build because you can use it with your copy of Zombie World and basically summon out a copy of your Dragon Necro Nether Soul Dragon, which is a crazy powerful boss monster. You can even summon out Garua, which is a great target for this card, but this is actually the best target to be able to summon out to your side of the field off of Zombie World's effect because it just requires 2 zombie monsters, and when this is on the field, everything's a zombie, making it a great card to be able to put on your side of the field. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing a single trap, and that's going to be 1 copy of Vampire's Domination. This card is great in the deck as a 1-of and helps you out so much in this particular build. This is basically the counter trap of the deck. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated while you control a vampire monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then, if it was a monster, you gain life points equal to the original attack, which is a really good effect to be able to use with this card, making this card a definite 1-of in the build. You can search it off your copy of Retainer, but it's just a really good card in this build. So that's going to do it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of the Zombie Vampire. This card is a great 1-of in the deck just to help you mill cards from your deck while also bringing back cards from the graveyard. This card has a great ability that if you use a monsters with a level that was owned by your opponent for this card's XZ summon, you can treat it as a level 8, making it very easy to make this card on your side of the field. And neither player can target this card with effects of special summon monsters except those special summon from the graveyard. You can also detach a material from this card, and then each player sends the top 4 cards of their deck to the graveyard. Then, if any monsters were sent to the graveyard by this effect, you can special summon one of those monsters to your side of the field, which is a really good effect and why I've gone so monster heavy with this build, so that we're guaranteed to be able to hit a monster off this effect. We then play a single copy of Vampire Sheridan. This card shares a similar effect to your copy of the Zombie Vampire, that if you use a monster with a level that is originally owned by your opponent, you can actually treat it as a level 6 for this card summon, and this card is great for spot removing cards on the field. We then play a single copy of Wallow. Wallow is just really good in this particular build because it just works extremely well because it is a zombie monster and helps you deal with cards in the graveyard. As monsters you control gain 100 attack and defense for each card in your opponent's graveyard, and quick effect, you can target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and detach 1 or 2 materials and then apply the appropriate effect. If you detach 1, you return it back to the deck. If you detach 2, if the target is a monster, you special summon that monster face up or face down defense position to your side of the field, making it even easier to make your copy of the Zombie Vampire. We then play a single copy of Red Eye's Zombie Dragon Lord. This card is an insane boss monster that can bring zombies back from the graveyard, which is just a really powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is great as a walking negate and a pop, and just a really awesome card in this particular deck. We then play a single copy of Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. This card is great because it's a walking negate, and it's really good in this particular build because it has the ability, if this card is special summon, you can target a monster that your opponent controls or in their graveyard and banish it, and if a monster is special summoned from either graveyard while this monster is on the field, then you can actually target one other face-up monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of the turn, which is a really insane effect for this card. We then play a single copy of Chaos Ruler. Since this is a Master Duel deck profile, this card is at basically 3 in Master Duel, and this card is insane as a 1-of in the deck. Is if this card is synchro summoned, you can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, add 1 excavated light or dark monster to your hand. Also, send the remaining cards to the graveyard, which is a really good effect to be able to use with this card because it's going to help you get additional cards to your hand while also getting your zombies to the graveyard, which is just a really powerful effect, and I absolutely love this card in the deck. We then play a single copy of Immortal Dragon. Immortal Dragon's really good because it can level manipulate itself, and it's basically a walking Foolish Burial. We then play a single copy of Dragon Necro Nether Soul Dragon. This card is our main super poly target that we're going to be summoning by using Zombie World on the field, turn everything into zombies, and then using 2 of our opponent's monsters to make this card. We then play a single copy of Garua. Garua is another super poly target that actually really works extremely well under Zombie World. And we have a second copy of super poly because it has the ability to 2 monsters with the same type and attribute, but different names. So if your opponent's playing monsters of, say, Dark, and you have Zombie World on the field, then they're both the same attribute and the same type. They just have to be different names to be able to make this card, and it's a level 6 to help you make rank 6 plays. We then play a single copy of Yugioh. This card is great in this particular build because it's also a walking negate, and it's just really good because if a monster is special summoned from the graveyard or a monster effect is activated in the graveyard, you can actually target one other face-up monster on the field and change its attack to 0, and if you do, negate its effects and use that effect up to twice per turn, which is insane about this card. We then play a single copy of Vampire Fascinator. This card is just insane in this deck as a 1/0 because if this card is link summon, you can target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except zombies, which is not that big of a deal because that's pretty much what we're playing in the deck. So this card is extremely powerful, being able to grab cards out of your opponent's graveyard or out of your graveyard, and has the ability that you actually get to tribute a vampire monster and then target a monster that your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase, which is again a great ability in this deck because it can actually help you go into your copy of the zombie vampire or vampire Sheridan. We then play 2 copies of Vampire Sucker. This card is really good in the deck. Like, this card is really good because if you would tribute a monsters for a tribute summon, you can tribute a zombie monster that your opponent controls, even though you do not control them, which is a great effect on this card because you can actually tribute your opponent's monsters when you have Zombie World on the field, which is really good. It also has the ability it's going to let you draw cards, as you can target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's side of the field in defense, but it becomes a zombie, and if a zombie is special summoned from either graveyard, you get to draw a card, which is a great ability. We then play a single copy of Link Rebo. We do play level 1s in the deck, so this card comes in extremely handy at linking those cards away to protect us from attacks. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have not played Vampires in Master Duel, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's just a really fun deck, especially being able to make some insane cards in Master Duel like Chaos Ruler, taking this deck to a whole nother level, which is just really fun. I really love summoning out vampire monsters to the field and just being able to take my opponent's monsters for my own. So, that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.